Greetings, Internet. HeiseNerd here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseNerd Speaks, the program where I sit in front of a microphone with some notes and my thoughts and what we're going to talk about. Now part of the DNA Digital Network. Now, thanks to the DNA Digital Network, you'll be able to find this podcast and other podcasts in the network on your apps such as iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and where other podcasts can be found. For more details, look at dnadigitalnetwork.com. Now on to the show. So, this is HeiseNerd Speaks. We're going to talk about some few different topics that I found this week, and I thought that these would be some interesting things. We're going to talk a little bit about Billy Mitchell. We're going to talk a little bit about Mark Hamill and Star Wars, some stuff that came out the last couple days. We're going to talk about some It Part 2 casting news, and then we're going to talk about a little funny story about some NES games, and I'm going to kind of keep that a little secret before we get to it. So first we're going to talk about Billy Mitchell. Now I've talked about this subject with my buddy, The Real Gino, on our GB3 podcast, I think a couple episodes ago. And when we were talking about it, we were talking about, well, first of all, let's put some light on who Billy Mitchell is. Billy Mitchell is a record holder for several different classic arcade games, notably Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. And he was a major subject of a documentary called The King of Kong, which was about a guy named Steve Wiebe, who was competing to get the high score for Donkey Kong. It focused on him and being up against Billy Mitchell, and Billy Mitchell was kind of made out to be kind of the bad guy, so to speak, of the story. Or at least by the way it was produced, you can kind of get that vibe. Actually, it turns out that he probably is the bad guy, because it looks as though that the records that he has, or he's submitted, or at least his latest highest one, was accused of cheating, that he was using emulation and submitting it via video, to Twin Galaxies, who is the company that kind of oversees these records. And within the investigation, it's finally been confirmed that he indeed was cheating. And as a result of this, Twin Galaxies has banned him, has stripped his records, and Guinness Book of World Records has stripped those records as well. So I guess to give some of my thoughts on this, after seeing the King Kong, I always kind of got the vibe that Billy Mitchell was kind of a tool bag. And maybe he was made out in production-wise to be that way, but I got the vibe that he didn't really want to be receptive to helping out or trying to communicate with Wiebe and trying to work with him on the production of the documentary. He would show up, not to actually like challenge him, but he would show up to kind of heckle him once in a while. And he was just, yeah. And this doesn't surprise me in the least. This is a guy whose pride was more important than his honesty, and made made this horrible decision, and now he is sitting on the results of his horrible decision. To be honest, I'd like to see a sequel, maybe documentary, kind of made surrounding this. I don't know how much we'll get participation-wise out of Mitchell. I think that he's kind of walking with his tail tucked between his legs, and he would probably not want to comment. From what I heard, I think he is attempting to sue the guy who, it was a YouTuber who put out the footage that he had put out and kind of picked it apart to show that he probably was found to be cheating and kind of instigated this investigation. So I don't see him winning that. I mean, what can he really do to win? I mean, the guy just posted something he thought was the case, so, and it turns out it was. It really is a shame to see that somebody's pride can get in the way of success, you know? I mean, honestly, I don't understand. I mean, also on the part of Twin Galaxies, I don't understand where submitted video is acceptable. I get it because you're taking people from all the way across the country and in various parts. So, I mean, there is some sense in that. But, I don't know. I feel like if you want to break a record, you should... You would want to have an audience there watching you do it. I mean, it would just seem silly to be sitting alone in a room and here I am breaking this record. I mean, I would prefer it if I was, that good and I wanted that kind of recognition. I would want some recognition right then and there from some people seeing it. I'd also like let's say if I was a speedrunner or something, I mean, you got Awesome Games Done Quick. There's plenty of people sitting behind them watching them do this. I don't understand why Twin Galaxies just doesn't do the same thing. Well, we can only hope that maybe they kind of learn from this and maybe they move on to put better regulations up and to better monitor people that are putting stuff out. Because even the best of their best just obviously was not honest about it, which is unfortunate. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk about Mark Hamill and his role as Luke Skywalker. In a recent interview with Games Radar, Hamill was found quoting that he feels that it's time to move on, kind of saying that the band has broken up, which I feel like makes sense. I mean, with Han Solo being killed off, that puts Harrison Ford out of the picture. He's not a Jedi, so he's not going to come back, in any form unless they do some weird form of flashbacks, but it ain't going to happen. Carrie Fisher passing away kind of puts Leia out of the picture. So, I mean, I get it. He may not feel as motivated to play the role anymore, particularly after his feelings of how the role of Luke Skywalker was portrayed in The Last Jedi. Because, I mean, first he was talking about how he's upset about it. Then he was turning around back and backtracking on it. Now he's turning around and saying that he's, upset about stuff again. I have yet to watch it a second time. I've got it on Blu-ray. I've got it on DVD. And, I'm going to probably sit and watch it. I might even watch that later this evening again, just to kind of get another feel for it. Because I'm still on the fence about that movie. Various things that irritate me, and then there's some things that I kind of get what they were doing. But I feel like JJ was not on board with a lot of the things that Rian Johnson did, and I think he's going to turn around and have to fix a lot of stuff. I've heard story about him not being... He would have had a different point with what's going on with Rey, in her lineage. I think that that's easily fixable. I mean, somebody could easily say that Kylo Ren was lying to her. I'm convinced that there's going to be some sort of lineage there. I just seem to think that it's silly that it's not going to be that way. Now, I don't see anything coming out of it yet, but I have a feeling that Rian Johnson, even though they've tapped him to do the next trilogy after this one and continue the saga, as audience disapproval has shown, I feel like, I mean, the money was there in the box office, of course, but the complaints are out there on the internet all over the place. I think that I feel like Rian Johnson isn't going to do this trilogy. I mean, give it a couple years. Maybe he'll do the first one, but then people might be upset with that. If he does two movies that people are not happy with, Disney's going to cut him. I can say that I'm happy that J.J. Abrams is doing the ninth movie. I was apprehensive about Colin Trevorrow too, because I'm not a big Jurassic World fan. And that's a whole different story, but there hasn't been a Jurassic Park movie as good as the first one, and there isn't gonna be. But I get where Mark Hamill's coming from on this. I mean, would it be a shame that we don't see him again? Absolutely. I feel like he needs to come back as a Force ghost. I feel like J.J. Abrams would do the character justice too. Maybe kind of make Mark Hamill feel a little bit better about how his character is being portrayed. That being said, I think that in the end he'll still come back. I mean, you can't say no to the almighty dollar that Disney has. And let me tell you, they're going to fork over some money if they want Mark Hamill to make an appearance. They'll convince him. Yeah, final closing thoughts on that. I would just say Star Wars needs... I'm just hoping for something better out of Episode 9. Again, need to watch Episode 8 again so I can give it another fair shake and see where I feel about it, for sure, and go from there. But that's it. All right, so we're going to talk about some casting news for the movie It Part 2. In a recent article that I've read in the last couple days, it looks like that there are some final talks with a couple actors for some of the adult characters. First of all, James McAvoy is being tipped to possibly be playing Bill Denbrough. I'm on board with this, especially I think that they kind of look similar, the kid who played him in McAvoy. It's funny, my wife joked that the kid who played him might actually be taller than James McAvoy by now. But that's just kind of a small dig. McAvoy's a good actor. I've always enjoyed what he's done. I don't feel like I've seen anything that I didn't care for what he did in it. I mean, I guess I'm not the biggest fan of Atonement, but that's not his fault. That's just the movie's fault, and that movie's boring as snot. It's like one of the only movies that I've ever sat watching and fell asleep most of the way through it. So, I mean, there's that, but recent performances, obviously he's great as Professor X. He was good in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. I loved him in Split. Just showed kind of his prowess of what he could do playing somebody with multiple personalities. It's pretty fascinating, that's a really good movie, by the way, which is really kind of surprising considering that M. Night hasn't come out with much of anything good for a long time. But, that's the thing, though, on a side tangent. When you do go back to what you're good at, which the Unbreakable series or whatever, going back to that, which was, in my opinion, M. Night's best movie. Some people still go to Sixth Sense, but I still liked Unbreakable more. You go back to that, and of course you're going to have a better time. But here's the funny thing, though. It's not really that tied to it until the very end. So, I mean, as a movie in itself, it's a good movie, even if it wasn't tied to Unbreakable. Just took him a while to finally find something that worked again. But anyway, yeah, James McAvoy for Bill Denbrough, and then we've also got a tip-off that Bill Hader is being considered in final talks for the adult version of Adult Richie, who was originally played by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things in the first film. It is kind of interesting in that because Wolfhard was quoted in an interview before saying that if he had a choice of who could play him as an adult, he chose Bill Hader. As far as the character goes, I think that that's actually a good choice. Because, I mean, Richie's the wise crack, obviously, and Bill Hader's a great comedic actor. And it'll be kind of nice to see him get into a role in something a little more high profile. As far as films go, he really hasn't done a whole lot of high profile stuff. I mean, he's done supporting stuff in some films. I mean, he was in Superbad, Trainwreck, but a lot of his work was obviously with TV, with SNL, and now he's doing the show on HBO, which I have yet to watch that, but I think that's a perfect choice. The thing that's bothersome now is that I've heard about both of these, and I'm going to be pretty upset if it falls through and neither of them get it. I think that those are good choices. But I mean, when we're talking final talks, we're probably on it. I mean, I'm pretty certain that filming is supposed to start this summer, so I mean, it can't be long before they say, hey, these guys are in it. And it also looks as though, from what I've heard, that it's not going to be how the miniseries did it, where it was the kid story and then the adult story, whereas in this one it is the kids are in it too. So obviously I'm guessing there'll be flashbacks. So I don't know how much of the kids will get, which I'm kind of happy with that anyway, because the kids really did a great job collaborating together. I think they were a good fit together. So, I mean, I'm down with that. And hopefully, we see them work well together in this film too. And I'm hoping that we can kind of get the same chemistry out of the adults as well. You have to. I mean, if it doesn't work with the adults like it does with the kids, then the film's not going to feel right. So especially if they're going to be both featured, so like the kids and flashbacks and the adults in the present time, if they don't gel, it's not going to work well. But I'm pretty excited about that news, and I hope that it comes out and works out that way. So we can only see and hope. So I'm sure in the next couple weeks we'll probably get the final word on that. All right, now my final story. This will be kind of short, but I thought this would be kind of funny. I read in a comicbook.com article last night about story about some NES games that a collector bought. And it turns out this collector takes the games home. It was a copy of golf and a copy of roller games. First of all, one of them was like a European card or something like that after they got him home and realized, okay, this is obviously not right. And then they also felt weird as far as how they weighed. And they're like, this isn't right. So the collector turns around, unscrews them, opens them up, and drugs are found inside. According to the article, the drugs weren't disclosed what they were or anything like that. I'm sure there's investigation going on. But I thought that this would be a fun time to throw a short little segment where I call HeiseNerd Does Some Joking. So, starting up here. So, these must be some high quality games. I bet they're dope. Also, I mean, these are NES games, so you may need to blow into the cartridge to get them to work. Games with drugs in them. Did the collector pay $4.20 for these games? Also, the games were golf and roller games. Would it not be more appropriate if they were Afterburner or Crystal Mines? Or, for a touch of irony, maybe Wally Bear and the No Gang. And that is HeiseNerd Do Some Jokes. Anyway, I thought that would be a fun little segment to do. At any rate, that will do for the stories that I have this week. Thanks for listening, watching. Sorry, I've done quite a few streams the last couple days, which if you haven't watched, I'm streaming The Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, randomized on a Key Sanity run. I did that the last 2 nights. I'm going to probably be picking that up again tonight. And let me tell you something, that has been one messed up randomized set when it rolled that randomization, it was quite unforgiving. I've had to do a lot of backtracking into dungeons. But yeah, I mean, thanks for listening, and I just thought it would take some time to kind of plug channels and talk about that a little bit. I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And I really enjoy the fact that I have, even though it's a small, very small subscriber base, I do have some people that are loyal, that are listening to this, and it really does mean a lot to me. The only thing I ask is, if you know somebody that's looking for a decent podcast to listen to, or wants to, catch somebody watching, some Let's Plays, point them my way. I can't thank you guys enough that are part of this. Also, just take some time. I know that I've kind of ridden on the coattails of my partner in crime, the real Gino, and I can't thank him enough either. And I would encourage anybody that isn't listening to him or watching any of his stuff to jump on his channel as well. Just look for the REEL Gino on YouTube. He has a pretty good channel where he does a lot of movie reviews, and he's been doing some game footage lately. He's actually recently kind of changed his format. He's starting to get a little bit more just behind the mic, instead of in front of the camera, and kind of just, instead of scripted reviews, kind of doing his own, kind of free writing it. And I admire that. I think that's actually really good of him. And I think that it's actually, it's more fitting. It's kind of what I like to do too. I'm not the kind of person that wants to sit and read a script. I don't feel like I'm genuine enough when I'm doing that. If I were a better writer and actor, then maybe I would do that, but it's just definitely not what I would be doing. I realize that this is actually a lot of a shorter episode too, and I'm kind of rambling here, but wow, I'm sitting here without notes now, so I'm kind of just whoa everywhere. But yeah, just last minute thoughts. Thanks for listening to this. Thanks for being part of the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't. Feel free to like this and any other videos that are on the channel. And again, a big thank you to the DNA Digital Network. Dennis, who runs that, he's just a great guy, and he's helping us get onto places like Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, and other places where podcasts can be found. Be sure to look them up at dnadigitalnetwork.com. It's really good to be part of that. I am open to start doing some blogs on that website as well. When things slow down here a little bit, particularly in the summer, because right now I've got quite a load going on with school, and work, and trying to do stuff with my channel on the free time, that I need. I'm not going to have time to sit and write, but I would like to start getting in on that. Start just kind of jotting down some thoughts about different things, and see where that goes. And I may incorporate some of that into the podcast here too as well. But again, just feel free to jump on the channel. I am going to be live again tonight, most likely playing Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I'm imagining myself being on in the 8 o'clock Central Time area, so feel free to get on then if you are listening to this before then. Otherwise, it will be, it'll upload itself onto the channel as well for you to catch on the back end if you can't watch it live. But again, thanks for the feedback that you guys have given me. Thank you for listening to the channel, and I will catch everybody on the next episode of HeiseNerd Speaks. HeiseNerd, out.